lot of people tell me that they have a training session, say Monday morning at 9 o'clock or something.
Okay.
And I don't know how long that lasts. But I guess they feel, and you had mentioned earlier, you're not on the sales floor, you're not making money. Hey, what am I doing here?
Right.
This is taking away, and you're edgy just by that fact. How often do you do this, and how long should a session be?
A session should be as long as it needs to be. And I'm not trying to dodge your question, but it's important. A lot of people come to me and say, I need a 2-hour training session on such and such. And it may be that you only need a half hour. Or maybe it's a motivational issue and you don't need training. Or maybe they're trying to squeeze 20 pounds into a 5-pound sack, and it really needs to be a 2-day program. That's where this process I use of talking about the business goals and strategies, the marketing strategies, you whittle down to interviewing the people, exactly what's needed. Now you know how long the training program should be to accomplish the business goals. You can't always afford that in terms of time or money. And you may say, fine, which of the goals do we not want to accomplish? But let's do what we're going to do well, choose what we're going to do, and determine the length of the program based on the needs and the design, which goes back to the business goals. So I will not say training should be an hour or 2 hours. It should be 15 minutes. It should be 3 days. It should be whatever it needs to be to accomplish the business goals in a way that's justified, and the investment you're going to make is justified because the return is going to make it worthwhile.
Now, I know you do videos, and it would seem like the video would be a really efficient way to meet those needs. They can, if they're sitting on the sales floor and there's no customers in there, turn that thing on and do 15 minutes of that. That would seem to be a very efficient way to meet these goals of the employer.
It's an efficient way of communicating information, but it's not a complete training program as such. A complete training program gives people a chance to practice and gives them feedback and involves the coaching. So a video-based training program that's accompanied by some of those other elements now can be a very, very adequate program as well.
So that's a tool. That's one tool in the whole scheme of things.
Right, absolutely.
Now, at the front end, you're talking to a client the first time. You interview him, you interview the employees, you interview the supervisors, you come up with goals, and you execute the program. Talk about assessing those goals after the program has been in use for a good while.
There are several ways of assessing training programs. The most valuable is what were the results from the program. We did a training program and gross margins went up 2 points. Or my average ticket is up $200 or whatever, right? And you can see that the effects after the training program versus before. That's what you'd like to see. Many training programs stop short of that and say, did you like the program? Yeah, the trainer spoke well, the slides were nice. That's not results. That's initial reaction. So I like to go as far as possible in the direction of what are the results from the program. Sometimes an intermediate step is you administer a test. That could even lead to certification if people pass the test. Did they learn what you hoped they would learn? And that may be a written test. That may be a practical test where people are put in situations and have to use the new skills. If I were teaching you how to change a tire, it may not be adequate for you to take a written test on how to change the tire. I may want to see you change a tire before I say, yes, you know how to change a tire. And I'd like to see the result that the tire stayed on the car for the next 5,000 miles. Then I know it was an effective training program. Same applies with sales. Let's go as far as possible in the direction of results. Now, they may take a while to happen, a month or 3. You may need to compare this year's results to last year's results because of seasonal effects. So you use those other vehicles as well, but you always want to go as far as possible in terms of results.
I would imagine most employers would tell you, if you say, hey, what do you really want to accomplish by this? I suspect increase, or at least increase our margins, increase our closing ratio. Do you mention those facts to the salespeople when you're training them?
Absolutely, because especially if it's a commissioned salesperson, they have a stake in it too. All the money doesn't go to the boss, it goes to the salespeople. Even if they're salaried salespeople, they've got a stake in the health and longevity of the business if they like working there. So everybody is interested in those factors. Those are very important to ownership because those set the financial stake. And yet, they're not the answer, they're the question. And what do I mean by that? The owner says, I want to raise my margin 2 points. Okay, what's that worth to you? Okay, what does it take to accomplish that? Well, my people need to get better at closing. Oh, really? what do they need to be able to do better to do that? They need such and such. Well, what do they need to do better to do that? And I keep drilling and drilling and drilling to get down to specific behaviors, and that's what we'll train people on, because it's behaviors that deliver results.
I see. Do you find that most salespeople are aware of margins or margins of particular products they're selling, or aware of total margins in general?
That varies widely depending on the ownership and how much they share with their staff, or how much they think that's my information, my data, and they don't have a open communication with the staff. In my experience, the ownership who shares that information trusts their staff and trains their staff with the right pay systems in place will benefit from sharing that information. But notice I put a few qualifiers on that. Trust and communications and skills, so that people do the things that will deliver higher pay for them, more secure job situations, higher margins, better business results for the ownership. Everybody wins.
You had a seminar at Surfaces, and as far as I could tell, there were more people that showed up at these seminars across the board at Surfaces than I've ever seen before. Does that mean that retailers in general are more inclined to be involved in a training program than they were 4 or 5 years ago? And the answer has to be yes to that, I guess.
The people are there, so the answer is yes, but I think the better question is why, and I think the tough economic times and the tough competitive environment has made it more important. People are realizing the value of customer service and selling skills and follow-up skills and social media and the things they have to do to be more competitive and therefore survive in a tough market. And even as the market slowly starts to improve, those skills will be equally important. As people finally have more money to spend, we want a bigger percentage of it.
Okay.
It'll become a share strategy and a profit strategy instead of a survival strategy, but still comes back to the skills of your people to accomplish your business goals.
Now, a retailer, a manufacturer, a distributor decides for whatever reason, we're missing the boat here in certain areas. We need to get some training in here and hopefully turn this around. They give you a call. You sit down with him. You talk to him. You talk to the people that we mentioned, the supervisors,
right,
the salespeople and all. How long a process? How long does that take?
In most cases, it's a matter of days. It might be a day with the ownership and part of that day with the staff. Depends how large the business is, obviously. A couple days afterwards, given my experience, I've been doing this for about 17 years now in flooring, a couple days afterwards to coalesce that into a plan and a proposal. And that goes back to the ownership for their consideration. That proposal would include, here's what I heard, a summary. Here's the implications of that to your business. Therefore, here's some training strategies that I recommend. Here's a plan. Here's how long it might take. Here's how much it's going to cost you approximately. Are you interested? And we continue the discussion.
I see. And then depending on their budget, you could hit all the items in a way you think is sufficient, or you have to trim back some of those, I guess, depending on the budget and their
up to the ownership. And it's interesting, many times those proposals include, here's how to get more out of the training you're already doing as well. The coaching topic, for example. Or here's how to work with your vendor reps who are going to come in to do the product training to turn that into sales training and tell them you want not only a lecture on the new products, but you want your people to be able to practice in customer situations. Or you want some coaching tips. So we help with strategies to how to maximize the benefit of their existing training as well.
I guess the whole idea of tying this to margins, closing ratios, etc., that's really got to be the motivator. I can't imagine a manager and owner isn't going to be impressed by that if they see some nice results at the bottom line.
That's the reason to do it. If you look at vendor training, if the only purpose of the vendor training is to sell more of product A instead of product B, that's the rep's perspective.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make the owner any more money. It's just replacing one sale with another. Why are we doing that? If, however, the goal is to sell more product at higher margins and higher tickets, and the vendor training can help you accomplish that, then by all means, you should be doing that. So it helps focus the conversation with any trainer. Here's what I want. I want to improve my business. Now help me understand how your training is going to help me do that. And if so, bring it in.
I have to imagine that in talking to a retailer, a manufacturer, a distributor, it's probably easier to sell them now than it was several years ago. They can see the need. The pressure is there, fewer people coming through the front door. You have to be a lot more productive and a lot more efficient. That would seem to be an easier sell.
Well, you would think so, but resources are tighter too, and everybody's working harder, and I still don't have the money to increase my advertising or increase my training budget. So you're still left with convince me that this is going to be a worthwhile investment and show me results and the confidence that it will give results, then I'm more willing to invest.
Which is a fair question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a fair question. The need is stronger in tough times, but resources are tighter. Those two tend to balance one another.
I hear you. Somebody wants to get a hold of you. I know you have a nice website. Give us the address of that.
The website address is www.traininggetsresults.com. That's Training Gets Results. It's all one word, no spaces in there. And yes, there is a double G, traininggetsresults.com.
Very good. Brian, it's always great talking with you. I always learn a lot. I may sign you up here and get trained at what I do.
Thank you very much, Dave. Always a pleasure to be with you.
We've been talking with Brian Gracon of Gracon Associates. This is Top Floor TV.